in round 6.
Here is Clyburn. Not a bad start, Suey. Here's Defoe. And in came Canute on that near post. Shearer down injured. Well, he's had a few scrapes down the ears. This is Davis. Only just the wrong side of the post. Pull back. Oh, great save. Twice from Shea Given. Newcastle are through to the semi-finals at the expense of Tottenham, but it's been some cup tie.
Manchester United needed a replay to beat Exeter after fielding a weakened side at Old Trafford in round 3. They overcame Middlesbrough and Everton without conceding a goal before they went to Southampton in round 6.
They've got in front straight away. Roy Keane. And there's Rooney. Oh, the crossbar. Rooney again. He's put it wide. That needs to right. Ronaldo. Oh, that is a super goal. That needs to right. Just couldn't quite poke it in, but Scholes surely will. And it's 3-0 to United. It's Scholes. It all looks so easy. Southampton outfought and outthought. Well, that's how they made it here, and so then to today's showdown on a pretty wet afternoon in Cardiff. Many fans of both teams, I think it has to be said, have had their reservations about the semi-finals being played in the Welsh capital. Venue, of course, for the final as well. But now they're assembled noisily, excitedly and colourfully in this wonderful arena. Well, the scene is set for a gripping contest that no one, I'm sure, among the 68,000 or so who have made the trip, would now dream of missing. Two teams licking wounds, really, after recent knockbacks. But such is the prize at stake. They'll soon be forgotten, I'm sure, once the traps are open. It's a pretty miserable afternoon, weather-wise, here in Cardiff. And the FA did actually ask both teams if they would like to have the roof closed. Both said no, they're happy with the atmosphere as it is. Much going on behind the scenes at Old Trafford with the American tycoon Malcolm Glazer's supposed offer of £800 million for the club seemingly picking up pace. Today, though, all thoughts are firmly fixed on matters on the field and the chance to keep alive a season that otherwise simply hasn't lived up to normal expectations. It's not been a great week for Manchester United, a dreadful 2-0 loss at Norwich. Rumours of some unrest in the United dressing room too, suggestions that some of the senior players aren't happy with what they perceive to be the growing influence of Ferguson's number 2, Carlos Queiroz. And that, coupled with the Glazer controversy, has meant it's not been an altogether smooth ride for the club in the build-up to the semi-final. Another sideshow has been the manager's angry reaction to Chelsea's chief executive, Peter Kenyon, having dinner with Rio Ferdinand. Ferguson presumably fearing they were chapping him up. As for Newcastle, well, headlines, some good, some bad, have been their constant companion during a season of much drama, really, at St James's Park. Much of it in Graham Souness's relatively short but definitely eventful reign in charge. Now comes the crunch. And how the two miscreants in that extraordinary set-to a couple of weeks back must be ruining the unfortunate episode that means because of their suspensions, they will take no part in today's game. Kieran Dyer and Lee Bowyer are both sidelined, although Dyer, as it happens, probably wouldn't have played anyway, as he sustained an injury in midweek. 50 years since Newcastle last won the FA Cup. A few near misses, in particular successive finals at Wembley in the late 1990s, when they lost first to Arsenal and then to Manchester United. Shearer, on duty for both, shared the misery of the club's long-suffering fans and will be today, as ever, straining every sinew, the Newcastle captain, to help his team make it third time lucky this year. A few months ago, I think the chances of Newcastle upsetting Manchester United on neutral territory wouldn't perhaps have seemed too likely a prospect. Not at the time, certainly, when Newcastle were struggling in the early days under Graham Souness, while Sir Alex Ferguson's team were imposing themselves at home and in Europe. But since then, the scales have perhaps tipped away from any real imbalance. Newcastle, despite the furore First over Craig Bellamy, and then more recently then the disgraceful Bowyer Dyer bust-up. Despite all that, they have improved in general terms, while Manchester United seem to have lost their momentum. And even though Newcastle are pretty thin on the ground personnel-wise this afternoon, they will be determined that their season doesn't end in a whimper. Thursday's loss to Sporting Lisbon in the UEFA Cup was such a deflating one. But Souness will be banking on his players, putting that behind them to focus fully on yet another major cup assignment. Roy Keane leading out Manchester United, heading towards the end of his hugely successful career. He's targeting yet another FA Cup triumph this season, 4 times a winner in the past. And he's been quite outspoken this week in his condemnation of recent team displays. We need, he says, to have a good look at ourselves and ask if we really are performing to the best of our ability. He obviously doesn't think they are, and as a manager would appear to go along with that. Alan Shearer at the front of the queue, of course, there for Newcastle, the old warhorse. My mother hen, Graham Souness calls him. Such an example to those around him, and he's set his heart on picking up the FA Cup, or any trophy indeed, for Newcastle, his beloved Newcastle, before he packs up playing. And even though he's bought himself a little extra time by delaying his retirement for another season, he's not intending to let this chance pass by without the most determined of challenges. And he has bayonet fixed and at the ready on this most demanding of battlegrounds. Battle-scarred Newcastle after defeat in Portugal. A place in the semi-finals of the UEFA Cup snatched agonisingly from their grasp as they squandered a 2-goal advantage. Manager Souness hopes their spirit has been revived in time. We were, he says, after the game, as low as a snake's belly. So the Millennium Stadium prepares to greet the arrival of the two teams. Mike Riley is the referee today. It should have been Graham Poll, but he has sustained a hamstring injury and had to drop out. So let's take a check then on the two teams for this afternoon's semi-final. Starting with Newcastle. And they've had problems galore then. Bowyer and Dyer suspended, and a host of injury concerns from before and after Thursday's game. This is the side that Graham Souness has had to settle on. At least Jean-Alain Boumsong is available again. He was cup-tied in midweek. And Celestine Babayaro is fit, but it's very much a patched-up team. Thank goodness for them that Alan Shearer is OK to start, despite being troubled by a dead leg. And Souness, it seems, has made his peace, albeit perhaps an uneasy one, with the enigmatic Laurent Robert. Goalkeeper Shay Given is another who's been carrying an injury, but he plays behind a back line there of Carr, young Stephen Taylor, Boumsong and Babayaro. In midfield, it's James Milner on the right, ex-Manchester United man Nicky Butt and Andy Fye in the centre, and Robert on the left. Up top, Shearer and England under-21 international Shola Amiobi. Patrick Kluivert is among the subs, and so is Charles Nzogbia, who didn't, after all, break his collarbone, as had been suspected in midweek. Well, with his team misfiring and unconvincing at times lately, Manchester United manager Sir Alex Ferguson hopes the real United will step forward today. The general feeling seems to be they're not really hurting teams these days in the way they used to. But no question, this 11 has the capacity to turn most sides over if the mood catches them. No Ryan Giggs, at least not from the start. He's still suffering with his hamstring problem, but he is a sub. And, well, so many other potential match winners, the likes of Rooney, Van Nistelrooy, Scholes and Ronaldo. Roy Keane is back to help stiffen the midfield. And in defence, the news that Rio Ferdinand is fit to take his place will have come as a major plus. The American Tim Howard keeps goal behind a back four then of Gary Neville, Ferdinand, Wes Brown in ahead of Mikael Silvestre, and Hensey on the left, the Argentine. It's Scholes, Keane and Fortune in midfield, with up front Ronaldo and Wayne Rooney supporting Van Nistelrooy. The Dutchman, incidentally, is still seeking his first club goal since returning from long-term injury. 8 matches now without a goal. Ruud Van Nistelrooy. Well, for Manchester United, who've not lost in 11 FA Cup semi-finals since 1970, the spur today will surely be the fear of ending the season without a trophy, which doesn't happen too often these days. They could still be second in the Premiership. Indeed, mathematically, they could yet still be champions, but United know that Chelsea's lead is surely a winning one. And the Red Devils right now are throwing all their resources into reaching the FA Cup final for the second year running. A record 11 cup final triumphs, but they've yet to defend the trophy successfully. Paul Scholes, who was the hero of last season's FA Cup semi-final with the only goal of the game against Arsenal, will they be there back in Cardiff on May the 21st to meet their old rivals again in the final itself? That we wait to see. Sir Alex Ferguson can only hope his team are firing on all cylinders this afternoon. Graham Souness, all the problems they've had in the build-up in terms of who would play today. Well, the 11 are out there now, and he is depending on them to come up trumps. So off we go as Mike Riley gets us underway. Manchester United defending the goal to our right. And here is Gary Neville, 3 times an FA Cup winner. Van Nistelrooy, can he break his barren spell this afternoon? 8 games then without a goal, and he really has looked a shadow of his former self. But there was no question that Sir Alex Ferguson would include him this afternoon, the sharp end for United. Straight on to the front foot, the Red Devils. An easy collection for Shay Given. He's been struggling with a hip injury. Ironically, Van Nistelrooy has been saying when he was actually injured earlier in the season with his Achilles problem, he was scoring goals. Now he's fit again. He seems to have lost his edge completely. He's had chances, but he hasn't put them away. That was Boomsong with the clearance for Newcastle. Now Baba Yaro, who's been a big doubt. A hamstring problem. Naturally for Graham Souness that he was able to include him this afternoon in that left-back position. That's the 19-year-old Steve Taylor, hustled there by Scholes, but unfairly so. Scholes, so often a match winner in the past for Manchester United, as he was a year ago then. Here's Taylor with the free kick towards Abiobi. And laid off by Shearer to James Milner. Stephen Carr digging in that cross. It's dealt with though by Ferdinand, who we had expected to be partnered by the Frenchman Sylvestre, but it's Wes Brown who's been brought in by Ferguson. Here's Hetze, who's been a revelation for Manchester United in his first season with the club, of course. Nicky Butt, well, he will feel he has a point to prove today. Released by Manchester United, but remembered so fondly by their fans and by the manager too, it has to be said. And Ferguson has been saying this week he fully understood why Nicky Butt wanted to move to Newcastle, as he was an automatic choice at Old Trafford. Ironically, he hasn't played that often for Newcastle either, although much of that has been down to injury. And since he's come back and been fully fit again, he hasn't quite played with the same authority yet, Nicky Butt. Here's Ronaldo. Something of a free spirit in this United team. There's a feeling among some of their critics that they have sacrificed flair to accommodate all the ageing legs of Roy Keane in midfield. Quite often really playing with just Van Nistelrooy up front. And at times he's looked a rather isolated figure in recent matches. Here's Quinton Fortune, the South African international. Now Milner. And then Carr, who was a losing semi-finalist for Tottenham against Newcastle back in the late 1990s. Tim Howard, of course, United's goalkeeper, the first American to win the FA Cup. Here's Keane, then to Scholes. Ronaldo's drifted in midfield. There's nobody out to the right. They've got Hensey on the left here. Now Fortune. Touched on towards goals by Ronaldo. Still Hensey available. Out comes Given. Not a tentative punch though by the keeper. He's got a hip problem. He forced him out of the league game last weekend against Tottenham. Keane. Decent effort too from Van Nistelrooy. Looking sharp enough on that occasion. And well saved by Shea Given. Spun away from Boomsong. It might just have bent in by that near post from the Dutchman. He has scored for his country since returning from injury, but not for Manchester United. Ferdinand. Here is Alan Shearer, who's expecting some fearful abuse from Manchester United fans. He knows it's coming. I think he treats it as a sign of respect as much as anything else. It certainly won't faze him. And that, of course, because twice in the past he has rejected overtures from Manchester United to join them. Newcastle is Alan Shearer's football club. And there he will remain until he does finally retire. Was that handled then by Carr? I think he bounced up awkwardly for him. Well, Mike Riley deciding not to show the yellow card. It certainly was a cautionable offence. I think it was accidental from Carr. He's become a very important player for Newcastle, cementing his place in the team at right back after switching from Tottenham back in the summer. United on the prowl again. Was there contact? I think that is a penalty. Ronaldo went down. Well, Newcastle are incensed, or is it? No, it's the other way. He's actually penalised Mike Riley, Rooney, for diving. Across came Taylor then. He certainly stuck out a leg. Down went Ronaldo. Was there contact? Hard to tell. Well, no penalty and a yellow card for Ronaldo for play acting. A controversial moment early on though in this FA Cup semi-final. Arsenal are through, 3-0 winners yesterday over Blackburn, comfortable winners in the end, but who will join them in the final? This promises to be a rousing encounter between two very fired up teams. Rooney sent crashing this time. Cristiano Ronaldo booked by Mike Riley. But it was, well, certainly at first viewing a debatable moment. Taylor deemed to be innocent. But no question, a major scare for Newcastle. Here's Rio Ferdinand. Well, he's been saying this week, Ronaldo, that he's curbed his diving. He admits he did do it rather too often in his first season. But according to the referee, guilty of misconduct here so early on in the match. Keane. Spreading the play intelligently to locate Hensey. Now Wayne Rooney, United's top scorer this season with 15 goals, including 3 in this competition. The 2 crackers against Middlesbrough, remember. Here's Nicky Butt. He'll just be anchoring things in midfield for Newcastle. Keeping an eye on, I'm sure, for Wayne Rooney. As Amdi Faye, the Senegalese, will be doing. lot of babysitting in there. Well, he will claim, I'm sure, that he was tripped. It's hard to tell, whatever angle you look at. Van Nistelrooy. Danger brewing again as Gary Neville links up now. Two players flying in for United, including Wayne Rooney. And Newcastle just about countered the threat. Andy Fye. Great anticipation by Rio Ferdinand. Got injured in the game against Norwich last week when United, by their manager's admission, were pathetic. A 2-0 defeat. And the injury to Ferdinand just to worsen their woes. Here's Boomsong. And he was caught then by Van Nistelrooy. Boomsong, who settled in pretty quickly with Newcastle after moving south from Glasgow Rangers at the start of the year. Not eligible in Europe. Very much a fixture in the domestic game. And he spells trouble, Ronaldo, with his pace. Here's yet another view of it. Thought for a moment there Mike Riley had given the penalty. He had a clear view of it. And sided to Newcastle's relief with Steve Taylor. Here's Fye. Another relative newcomer with Newcastle, having moved up from Portsmouth just a short while ago. He's done okay too. But they are without Dyer and Bowyer. Two major losses, no question about that. After their appalling altercation in that defeat against Aston Villa. Van Nistelrooy with Boomsong tight on him. And it spins away for a corner kick. Offshot Alain Boomsong. Hoping to cement his place in the French team on the back of his club form for Newcastle. He's certainly back in the frame. Up comes Ferdinand, Brown as well. Plenty to concern Graham Souness's team back there. Scholes with the corner. It was Hensey who came in. And Sylvestre, a misunderstanding with Rooney. And they just about got away with it. Roy Keane sitting deep. United haven't lost in 11 FA Cup semi-finals since they were beaten by Leeds United back in 1970. Here's Rooney. Again, threatening goal for Manchester United. Beaten back in 1970 by a goal from late Billy Bremner for Leeds at the old Burnden Park in a semi-final replay. No replays available now, of course. It has to be settled on the day. Extra time and a penalty shootout available if need be. Free kick to United, conceded by Shearer. He's got 20 FA Cup goals for Newcastle. Very much the standard bearer for Graham Souness. They do need to pick themselves up quickly, Newcastle, after that traumatic experience in Lisbon. But it all turned sour. Quinton Fortune didn't get hold of that one, though. He was a scorer in one of the earlier rounds against Everton. That was his first goal for a year. I think he's caught the eye when he's played this season, Fortune. Here's Rooney, linking well with Scholes. And out comes Taylor. A 19-year-old. Now Fye. He was careless, though. Gave it away to Hensey. Then Rooney to take it on. It's mainly Manchester United so far. Quinton Fortune bending it over. Van Nistelrooy, and then Boomsong managed to hack it out. But the team in red a bit first to settle. And one major scare when Ronaldo went down with a penalty not given after he clashed with Steve Taylor. Tim Howard untroubled so far. Here's Gabriel Hensey. He was a French Cup winner last season with Paris Saint-Germain. Now Keane. Finding Gary Neville. Ronaldo. Neville again. Here's Fortune. To Keane. And then Boomsong away once more. Again alive to the danger back there. He's been fully worked so far, but maybe a bit of a misunderstanding with his goalkeeper. The pressure stays on. It's Neville. Now Ronaldo. Getting roundly jeered by the Newcastle fans after his part in that earlier incident. Scholes. Keane was on the rampage. Mike Riley was in the way. Now Robert. Oof. Unceremoniously dumped on the floor by Keane, who was retreating. Robert back in favour. Not too many thought he would play today. Well, he was left out of the squad in midweek for his latest outburst, criticising the manager and his fellow players. Well, in fairness to him, he said he was misquoted and his remarks were taken out of context. It does happen, especially when there's another language involved. But this is why, or one of the reasons, he's back in today, his ability on free kicks. He got a marvellous one, I remember, in the Premiership against Liverpool. And he set up the goal that beat Chelsea, Patrick Kluivert's finish so early on in their meeting. He can really hit them, Laurent Robert, but not this time. He does blow hot and cold. Eccentric, enigmatic, unpredictable, but no question, he can be a match winner. I don't think Graham Souness wanted to talk about him too much in the build-up to this game. And I'm sure he gave plenty of thought to whether or not he should include him. He did have the option of playing young Zogbia, who is fit after all, but decided against that and has gone with Robert. His days will be numbered if he crosses the line again, I'm sure. On by 5. To Robert, looking to deliver for Shola Amiobi. He's got the nod then, to go ahead of Patrick Kluivert, alongside Shearer. Well, they've had most of the possession so far, Ferguson's team. Nothing to show for it as yet. Past the quarter of an hour mark. Cross comes Boomsong. Having to deal with Van Nistelrooy. Shearer's misjudged it. Neville. And to Brown. And Hatsay. Scholes and Keane keeping the move flowing. Wayne Rooney. Some crisp interpassing here by United. Neville once more joining in down that right side. But again it's Boomsong who repels the latest thrust. Van Nistelrooy lurking in the centre. Rooney came charging in too. That's a good interception by Boomsong. Fortune. Now Scholes. A lot of early good movement from Manchester United. They've actually won only 2 of their last 6 games. They have lost their way a bit. The manager feels they've been too complacent. They certainly underperformed last week at Norwich. Ronaldo, who has lit up this season at times. Van Nistelrooy, it's in! The bang run is over, and Manchester United, to the manager's delight, take the lead. They've been threatening to score. And Van Nistelrooy is back with a goal. His first in 9 matches. I didn't think at first he'd hit it that convincingly. They weren't tight enough on him. There was a slip there by Boomsong, and his shot just squeezed past Given. Well, in the end, it was such an accurate strike from the Dutchman. There have been rumours that he's been unsettled lately and may want to leave. Not if they're winning, he won't. It does appear he changed his mind after the FA Cup success of last season. Amiobi looking to respond here for Newcastle. Claiming the corner, and it is Given. Well, such relief for this magnificent goal scorer. All strikers of his repute go through this kind of run, and he's had not many like that. They've not got going yet. Newcastle have been very stretched at the other end. Boomsong and his fellow defenders. And when he lost his footing, it was crucial. And Van Nistelrooy took full advantage. He's got 13 FA Cup goals now in all, 6 doubles, and now the one this afternoon. It's time to frustrate Graham Souness. We've seen his team hold out. One or two uncomfortable moments early on, but now they've got behind, and he knows how difficult it's going to be to turn it round. That was the cross in from Ronaldo. There was Boomsong losing his footing, and Van Nistelrooy stroking it into the corner beyond Shay Given. Suddenly his whole demeanour has changed. Van Nistelrooy really has been struggling in recent matches in terms of converting those chances that have come his way. Nicky Butt to Carr. Now Milner. Don't think he would have played had Genius been available. Milner. Bowyer and Dyer missing too. There's Carr with the cross. Hit it out by Ferdinand, only as far as Celestine Babayaro. An FA Cup winner with Chelsea back in 2000. Now it's Robert. Better delivery this time. But no one in black and white on the end of it. And in the end, Rooney settles for the throw. But they've got to get in the service for the likes of Shearer and Amiobi. It was a teasing ball then by Robert. Shearer couldn't quite get it under control, and that deceived Milner as well. But at least some encouragement for Newcastle. Shearer almost into the path of Amiobi, but out comes Tim Howard in the nick of time. Amiobi's got a couple of goals in the FA Cup run this season. United haven't conceded one in the FA Cup since last season's quarter-finals when Fulham scored. Ferdinand, very much the leader at the back. Here's Gary Neville. Brother Phil hasn't made the 16 today. Here's Ronaldo. Teasing Babayaro. Fortune. Gary Neville. Good ball for Ronaldo. But in came Nicky Butt to dispossess his former Manchester United teammate. Now Faye. It was a clumsy challenge from Fortune. Free kick then to Newcastle. One by Shearer, and then bounced away off Amiobi. Fortune to Scholes. Now Roy Keane. Hoping this year to extend his modern-day record of 6 FA Cup final appearances. Manchester United with 65% or so of possession so far, and they had the goal through Ruud van Nistelrooy. They got 2 in the final last year, remember, against Millwall. Here's Ronaldo. Now Fortune. In came Butt. Sliding it ferociously too. Milner. Former Leeds teenager. This is Rooney. A lovely little weighted ball as well for Keane. Rooney again. He's got Boomsong to contend with. But there's his strength again. We saw that so many times in the recent England games. He's getting better and better and better. It wasn't bad to start with. Corner then to Manchester United. It's a signal for Brown to advance, along with his central defensive partner, Rio Ferdinand. Scholes to float it over. Only partially cleared too then by Babayaro. Nicky Butt. Now Carr's been released. That was a poor challenge by Neville on Robert. He's been subbed off in his last 7 appearances, Laurent Robert, much to his frustration. Corner to Newcastle. Think about it, says Roy Keane. Well, he's given his teammates some stick this week. After their showing at Norwich last weekend, he didn't play in that match. He watched it on the telly and was none too impressed. Van Nistelrooy back defending and earning his team a throw-in. Well, he has been such a talisman for them with his fantastic scoring in the last few seasons. They won't want to see him go, that's for sure. And he will want to keep him. And he stuck by him during this lean spell. And with every justification too. You don't drop a man of his talent, it'll come good eventually. It has already today. Ronaldo. Trying to fend off Babayaro and Milner. One of his better crosses. Well, it has been generally a struggle for Manchester United to score goals lately. Got the one so far though against Souness's team. There's the man who took over from at St James's Park, Sir Bobby Robson. Looking rather glum in the pouring rain of Cardiff. I think they feared a backlash from Manchester United, Newcastle today. Graham Souness describing him as a wounded animal after Norwich. Certainly up for this semi-final, but then no one would have expected otherwise. The early exit from the Champions League is a huge blow to suffer. Also the fact they're not going to win the championship, the Premiership. Yes, it was a foul there, a late challenge by Nicky Butt on Rooney. Butt as uncompromising as ever. And he has felt frustrated at not playing every week for Newcastle, having suffered a similar fate with Manchester United before his move. Here's Scholes, still very much a fixture. Well, not for England now. Ferdinand. For Keane. It's just too far for Van Nistelrooy. But not for Hensey. Oh, and it was a great shot set. Well, Quinton Fortune, who came bursting through, and they didn't pick him up. Great persistence by Hensey. He's some player, this fellow. Fortune on the end of it, but steered over the top. And then he whipped that ball in, then Gabriel Hetze. Fortune, whose only goal was that one in the FA Cup against Everton this season. Only goal in this campaign. Now Amiobi, no, he's been pulled back. He wouldn't have counted anyway had he been on target. Mike Riley had blown for the offence. And ball. It rolled off his arm as he was confronted then by Ferdinand. Well, there's been plenty of talk in the newspapers this week about Rio Ferdinand and this meeting he had, although it was only dinner, with Peter Kenyon, the chief executive at Chelsea. Rio's been quick to refute any claims that he's set to move to London. So much so, in fact, that he says, I want to be the next Manchester United captain, let alone sign a new deal. And together they are quite close now to agreement in terms of coming up with a new contract. It will be worth a few bob. It's a foul by Milner on Hetze. It's a caution for him. There's a fairly wild lunge by the youngster. He's been in and out of the Newcastle team really since coming to St James's Park from Leeds. Definitely contact with Hetze. Second booking of the game then so far, to follow Ronaldo's for Manchester United. A jump by Fortune. Then butt for Newcastle. Andy 5, was he fouled? Yeah. Hefty challenge on him. He wants to get on with it though. As Newcastle will strive to get themselves back on level terms in this FA Cup semi-final, just past the half-hour mark. Ruud van Nistelrooy's goal dividing the two teams. There's a strong man in midfield, Andy Fight, alongside Nicky Butt. But you do wonder, will they be a little short on craft? They've got the graft. Here's Butt now, trying to drive his way towards that corner flag. Quinton Fortune, who stayed with it. No Ryan Giggs in the starting 11 then, and he hadn't been expected to feature at all in the 16, but he's on the bench in fact, despite a hamstring problem. Sir Alex Ferguson was as surprised as anyone else when he turned up for training this week, ready for action. He hadn't expected him to be ready. Yeah, that's a foul. No two ways about that. Front shoulder Amiobi. Grappling with Ferdinand. It was not easy to shake off. He certainly had a little nibble at him then, Amiobi. He's got 5 goals this season, including those 2 in the FA Cup for Newcastle. And he's had a chance of the limelight, really, in the absence of Craig Bellamy, now up at Celtic, after his fallout with Graham Souness. Milner taking the free kick, Stephen Carr trying to motor on down this right side, but Rooney came back to deny him. Brave goalkeeping from Tim Howard. He's been vying for the #1 jersey with Roy Carroll all season. He's the man in possession, as they say at the moment. But in truth, neither Howard nor Carroll has proved to be that trustworthy. Ronaldo to Neville. This is Keane. Now Ferdinand. Ronaldo. Super ball then to send him on his way from Ferdinand. He might have made more of that then, really, the Portuguese international. The angle was rather tight in the end. And beyond Scholes in the centre there. Van Nistelrooy as well. There's a lovely ball in the first place from Rio Ferdinand, who of course missed out on the cup run last season because of his lengthy FA ban. Scholes jumping with Nicky Butt. Two players who came up through the ranks together at Old Trafford, but on opposing sides this afternoon. Ronaldo. Now Keane, who's barely put a foot wrong so far. Just one mistimed challenge early on in this match. Rooney. Slipped on then for Scholes. Here's Rooney again. He'll have a go from here. Oh, it was fumbled by Given. And much to his relief, it fell behind the line. Only one thought on Wayne Rooney's mind here. It was too close to Given, but he made a meal of it, the Irish goalkeeper. Manchester United's third corner then of this semi-final. Taken again by Scholes. Good take though from Given. He's had another fine season, in fairness to him, in general, for Newcastle. He was a loser for his club in the '98 final. Only on the bench for defeat the following year by Manchester United. Became more fortune. But safely back to Tim Howard. He's not had too much to perplex him so far. Hansey. Well, he knew it would be tough this afternoon. And it's proving to be exactly that. Rooney with a little bit of room to manoeuvre it too. Now it's Ronaldo. He had Rooney up in support. And it's behind off Nicky Butt for the corner. As the Red Devils look to turn the screw here. In front of a full house at the Millennium Stadium. It wasn't so yesterday for the first semi-final. Just shy of 70,000 assembled. Scholes drilling another one in. Here's Wes Brown. Being policed by Shearer. And settling for another corner. The first time the FA Cup semi-finals have been played here, of course. Scholes again. Brown. Couldn't quite get his head to it, but the whistle had gone anyway in Newcastle's favour. Well, they've been the better team so far, and they are worth this lead. Van Nistelrooy's goal. His first in 9 matches since coming back from that Achilles heel injury. Say the miscreant here. Patrick Kluivert sitting it out for the moment, but I'm sure he'll be thrown on if it stays this way, certainly in the second half. Another proven match winner. And he's got the goals that knocked out Chelsea and Tottenham, both inside the first 5 minutes. So pushing there by Robert. Not really got in the game too often so far. Here's Scholes for Manchester United. Kept it alive, but no more than that. Taylor to Nicky Butt. Not found a cutting edge so far at Newcastle. Given had to rather hurriedly scoop that one away. And it's handed the initiative back to the team in red. in this battle of the Uniteds. No question, they've been the dominant force so far. Milner. That was poor though, straight to Keane, who's been sent off in 2 previous FA Cup semi-finals. 95 and 99, the United captain. That's Nicky Butt's 5th foul of this semi already. Got a feeling it won't be his last. Here's Keane. Caballero read his intentions though. Here's Faye. Robert. And Nicky Butt trying to bring some authority to Newcastle's play, but they're dithering. There's Butt again trying to sort things out. He was manhandled by Fortune. Well, all credit to him there, Nicky Butt. Trying to get something started for Newcastle. We're getting a little heated. Boomsong with the free kick. They've got battlers in this Newcastle team, but they do need a little more enterprise, certainly when they advance. I think Rio Ferdinand's had to break sweat yet back there. But let's remember a depleted Newcastle side with the likes of Bramble and Genus, Aaron Hughes, all missing, not to mention Dyer and Bowyer. Shearer. Battle of wills there with Wayne Rooney. Surely England's finest striker of the last decade, and the man you would think destined to be our best of the next one, in Wayne Rooney. Will be Robert with the kick. The dangerous one too. And last a threatening moment really from Newcastle, but United survive. There was an injury for Shearer. No surprise that he was in the thick of the action. And he was such a talisman for Newcastle. The boot was high from Ferdinand. Caught him in the face. It was Andy Faye who fell to force a save from Tim Howard. Look how high his boot was then, Ferdinand. Shearer might have had a case for a penalty there, you know. It was an unorthodox challenge from Ferdinand. Shearer, lion-hearted as ever. Something at least to give Graham Souness a lift as he passes on some tips to Jean-Alain Boumsong. A few repairs needed for Alan Shearer. My bet is he'll carry on. You try dragging him off. It's amazing to see that for all his success down the years and the accolades that have come his way, he's only ever won one major trophy, and that was the Premiership title with Blackburn back in '95. What he wouldn't give for a trophy with Newcastle before he finally ends his playing days. He's had 192 goals for Newcastle, just 8 short now of Jackie Milburn's all-time club record. He might not break it this season, but you can bet your house on him doing so next time. Wes Brown. Now Hatsay. Inside the last 2 minutes of the first half. There'll be 1 more minute too on the end of the 45. Rooney. A few more lurid headlines about him off the field, Wayne Rooney, this week. His manager's too impressed at the moment, where he always seems to be on the front pages. He suggests he should take up piano lessons, piano playing, to help curb his anger. Oh, it's number 2! Paul Scholes with such an accurate header there. And just when it seemed Newcastle had some hope for the second half, maybe that has gone now. It was a brilliant header. And no defenders really responded here. He's made that run across defenders, across the box, and guided his header beyond Shea Given. Whipped in by Ronaldo, and finished so emphatically by Scholes, and it's 2-0 to Manchester United. And they are very much now in the driving seat. Just before half-time, it could be a killer blow for Newcastle, who will take some lifting now. It was a great header from the, well, former England international. It could be crucial. And Graham Souness will have a task on his hands now in that Newcastle dressing room, making them believe that they can still save this FA Cup semi-final. The winner last year against Arsenal at this stage, and on the score sheet again now. Got a couple against Southampton too in the last round. Paul Scholes, those were his first in cup competition since last year's semi. And no wonder Graham Souness is scratching his head, pondering now what to say really. And how to instill some belief into his players again. They just didn't go with him. Nobody read that run. Ghosting into space, and boy, did he make it count. His third goal then in the FA Cup this season. A big loss for England, Paul Scholes, with his decision to retire from the international scene, but he's very much a fixture and a vital component of Manchester United's team, and he has doubled their advantage at the halfway stage. Ruud van Nistelrooy getting the first goal to send them on their way, and then that stunning second from Scholes just before the half-time whistle. So Newcastle with an awful lot to do now in the second period. They trailed Manchester United, the cup holders, by 2-0.
Sport.
10-second warning, start of the second half. Welcome back from me, Peter Brackley, to the second half of this FA Cup semi-final from the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, as Newcastle 2-0 down start the second half. Now attacking, and they'll hope to be attacking more often than they did in the first half, attacking the goal to our left. And they've made two changes. Charlie Nzogbia and Andy O'Brien have been brought on in place of Amdi Faye and Celestine Babayaro. Not sure as yet whether that's tactical or for injuries. Whatever, they need something in this second period if they're to stand any chance at all of changing the course of this game. United with one foot firmly placed in the final. Much the better team in the first half, and it might have been more than two in truth. But here's Shearer now. He certainly won't be settling for defeat. Robert didn't get in the game nearly enough. Zogbia. And this is the man they thought had broken his collarbone in Lisbon on Thursday, but an X-ray revealed the injury wasn't quite as serious as they had suspected. He's only 18. A man who came from Le Havre in France back in the summer. And he was preferred to Laurent Robert in the starting 11 in Portugal after Robert's fallout with Graham Souness. That was Nicky Butt, straight to Keane, who controlled the first 45 minutes really. Imperious in the midfield. You can see why his manager is prepared to change things around, tinker with the formation to accommodate him. Even if he is in the twilight of his career, he is still such a major influence. And surely Graham Souness' team have got to get tighter on him and on Rooney. Well, they've got a free kick here. Taken by Steve Carr. Here's Butt. Where's Brown with that meaty clearance? Not really been tested too much so far. Brown alongside Rio Ferdinand. Ferguson deciding to replace Michael Sylvestre with Brown for this semi-final. Not really a big gamble. But now it's Milner. Can they stretch them here? Ferdinand away. Milner. Getting no change out of Rooney there. Again, steely determination there from the England youngster until he ran into Nzogbia. Now Gary Neville. This is his 7th FA Cup semi-final, including replays. Rooney. Quinton Fortune to Roy Keane. Now Ronaldo going through his repertoire of tricks. Might need a rethink on that one. Hetze clearly upended by Carr with that rash challenge. And I think more in frustration than anything else. So far they've been very much second best to Manchester United. Ronaldo trying to deceive Milner, who stayed with him, but illegally. A shirt tugging going on there. Ronaldo's won the free kick. Some debate during the half-time interval about that early incident of the first half. Was he tripped by Taylor? Did he dive? Opinions differ, but I think the referee got it spot on. Ferdinand in the mix again. He's never scored for Manchester United. Not yet, anyway. Led off to Scholes. And now Fortune. Nothing fortunate about that. I think he's been a growing influence for United whenever he's played this season. Really has found his feet now at Old Trafford to become a key member of the squad, especially with Giggs not always available. Taylor, now Robert, who as usual didn't help out too much defensively during the first half. Well, he himself says, look, you know what to expect from me, I can't defend. Well, maybe not, but he's got to contribute in other ways. He didn't really do so in that first 45 minutes. Andy O'Brien, who's come on then for Babayaro. It's Milner. Then Shearer with Amiobi. Rather Nzogbia, I should say, that time. Gave it away pretty cheaply. But to try again, Milner. And Carr swinging it over, just beyond Amiobi. Here's Robert. Scrapping with Ronaldo. Went in a bit too strongly, I'd have thought then, on the Frenchman. But the referee says just a throw. And it's to Manchester United. leading through Van Nistelrooy and Scholes. I just wonder how much damage that second goal did. Coming just before half-time. Boomsong. He and his fellow defenders were caught out by Scholes and his eye for an opening. Ronaldo. Now Fortune. This is Wayne Rooney. Always a danger, always a threat. But a wayward pass from him this time. United, Manchester that is, hoping to reach their 17th FA Cup final. Arsenal have already made their 17th this weekend. Surely a pull down on the shirt of Amiobi, who then goes down as he's challenged by Ferdinand. No question of a penalty. I thought there was a tuck before that though. Amiobi trying to get away from Ferdinand, and he went down somewhat theatrically. And understandably, Mike Riley was having none of it. A boyhood Newcastle fan as he grew up on Tyneside. He was born in Nigeria. And you look from that angle, there was a clear pull on his shirt by Fortune. Nothing wrong with the tackle though from Ferdinand, that was perfectly timed. It was the instant before that the referee seemed to miss. So a let off then for Manchester United. If Newcastle could just get a goal back here, would put a whole new complexion on this semi-final. But as it is, Manchester United are in control, and you would certainly not rule out further goals from there, given the opportunity. Obviously behind though for a goal kick. Well, he needed some strong words at half-time, Graham Souness. Against the Manchester United team in determined mood. Roy Keane has been saying this week the pace has become like a holiday camp. And that was just the kind of cajoling they needed to lift them out of their mediocrity. Not a word you often associate with Manchester United, but they've been off their game in recent weeks, that's for sure. They're very much on top now against Souness's Newcastle. A winning manager with Liverpool. At the moment his team are going out unless they can improve considerably and give Manchester United a real game in this second half. Shearer barging into Brown, getting away from him. Well, he was tripped then by Brown. He's got to be cautioned for that. Also an offence too from Shearer. Seemed to be a shove initially from the former England striker. Brown certainly thought so. The referee's assistant was unimpressed, but then Mike Riley and the assistant there in total accord. It was a foul by Brown. And a chance here for Newcastle. Almost 10 minutes gone in the second half. Laurent Robert, boy do they need him to deliver. By Hetze. Rooney on the chase with Milner, who won it cleanly enough, but now it's Ronaldo. He's got Rooney up with him and Van Nistelrooy in the middle. Here is Van Nistelrooy! Oh, and it could have, maybe should have been three. In his pomp, he'd have tucked that one away, surely. Just a little bit of edge to his finishing. Even though he scored in the first half, it has been lacking in recent weeks. And I think there was further evidence of it there. Alex Ferguson has been saying, well, maybe I brought him back too soon from that injury. He felt he needed it, certainly for the big European ties against Milan. But it was a gamble that didn't pay off. He's on the score sheet today, along with Paul Scholes here. And it's left Newcastle with a mountain to climb. They've only met 3 times in the past in the FA Cup. Manchester United have won on all 3 occasions, and each time they've gone on to win the competition as well. Under relax. They've got to 6 FA Cup finals in the past. Is it going to be 7? It's looking that way at the moment. Boom song to Andy O'Brien, the Irish international who's come on then in the second half to start in alongside Boom song. Taylor's got the left back. Well, but here is Taylor. Given away that by Nicky, but it was a tired pass too. He might have put his team in trouble. Scholes gained some fine movement from United. Here's Rooney, and then Scholes rolled on. Grant Easter-Roy, it's 3. No doubt about the outcome there, or indeed now surely of this semi-final. Wonderful, incisive counter-attacking play, and all stemmed from that misplaced pass from Nicky Butt. He left his teammates in all kind of difficulties, and they've really capitalised on it, Manchester United. Butt's pass finding only Rooney. Then it was Scholes. And they're flowing here, really fluent stuff. Scholes rolled on invitingly to Ruud van Nistelrooy. And it's yet another double for him in the FA Cup. That's 7 now. The man who'd forgotten how to score has suddenly remembered. And he can relax a little now down on that bench. Sir Alec Ferguson. He's had his critics in recent weeks, but he is a winner and will remain so. Losing his hairs has never been part of my life's agenda. But here's Amiobi with a chance for Newcastle, and he squeezed it in. Don't write us off yet. That's the message. 3-1. 2 goals in the space of, 2 minutes. And at last, at long last, something for those Newcastle fans who've made this long journey down to Cardiff to enthuse about. It was Brown's mistake initially, on by Shearer, and Amiobi in the, with the tightest of angles, has put it away. Rolled on there by Shearer, despite being clattered from behind. And it seemed to go between the legs of Tim Howard. And they have a fighting chance. Just before the hour mark. 2 for Van Nistelrooy and Paul Scholes for Manchester United. And now it's Shola Amiobi responding for Newcastle. A long way to go yet in terms of turning it round. But at least there's hope. Boomsong. Here's Van Nistelrooy. Now Ronaldo. And it seemed Manchester United were home and dry. But maybe not just yet. I think he's done a fair job so far, Mike Riley. Ruling without too much fuss. Unhappy there. The shirt tugging from Ronaldo, or the response from Laurent Robert, who just seemed to lash out at him. He has been cautioned, Robert. They have suddenly found their voices again. Pretty low on spirits earlier, especially when that third goal went in. Get another one, it would be game on. But it's a big ask. It's raised the temperature though around the Millennium Stadium. In the pouring rain. Roy Keane. Again has demonstrated today just why he is still so important to Manchester United. Ferdinand. He was keen again. Zogby though would read his mind there. Here's Robert. Ferdinand. Off goes Fortune. Now Ronaldo. Skipping free for United, it's Fortune. We've got 5 up here. Van Nistelrooy on a hat-trick. Denied though by Shea Given. And his alertness back there for Newcastle. Amiobi, looking like awkward for Hensey. He did seem to side down Amiobi then. It's a corner anyway. Robert took that corner very quickly, but they failed to catch Manchester United off guard. And it's a foul by Carr on Ruud van Nistelrooy. Patrick Kluivert maybe preparing to come on now, it would seem so. Well worth a gamble at this stage. Blessed with so much talent, Kluivert. 1 or 2 question marks against his temperament, his attitude, some say. There's certainly some speculation about whether he'll be staying on at St James's Park come the end of the season. 11 goals during this campaign, including those FA Cup winners against Chelsea and against Tottenham, Stephen Carr's old club. It's Milner who will give way to allow the introduction of the Dutch international Patrick Kluivert. The man who has quite a CV, having played for Ajax, for Barcelona and for Milan. Put long by Boomsong towards Shearer. Amiobi. Kluivert couldn't quite latch onto it, and the flag was up for offside anyway. Only 4 goals in the Premiership from Patrick Kluivert, but he's not been an automatic choice. So we've got 3 strikers on there now, with Amiobi, Kluivert, and of course, Alan Shearer. Oops. Hensey and Amiobi having an exchange of opinions. And again, no dramatic reaction from Mike Riley. Just sensibly let them get on with it. Here's Boomsong. Nudged on by Kluivert. Only though to Gary Neville. Chase that one as the invitation to Van Nistelrooy. Up comes Boomsong. Neville again. Full customer back there for Manchester United. But at least they've been given something to think about by conceding the first goal, their first goal in this competition this season. They will never stop cheering, never stop singing whatever's going on. Those fans of Newcastle. The attendance just short of 70,000 there in the Millennium Stadium. And we're now seeing a rousing second half in the second of the 2 semi-finals. Arsenal are there. Well, Manchester United very well placed indeed to join them, but Newcastle not yet out of it. Nicky Butt, Kluivert. Before their recent demise against Aston Villa when they had those 3 players sent off, Newcastle, they'd strung together a 12-game unbeaten run. They'd been in decent nick. It's all turned sour again lately. Certainly not helped by their injuries, and of course those 2 suspensions for Dyer and Bowyer. It's a foul by Van Nistelrooy on Boomsong. The familiar cry, the blatant voices ringing out around the Millennium Stadium from the Newcastle fans, doing their utmost to lift their team. In the hope that they can stage an extraordinary transformation. It will certainly be that in this second half. Here's Ferdinand for Manchester United. There goes Neville, and Zombia caught him. It will be a throw. It's taken quickly by Robert. Shearer. And behind off Wes Brown for a corner. A promising spell this now then. For the black and whites, the Magpies. 3-1 down, but showing some desire, some commitment, some spirit. Here's Robert. Wasn't a bad delivery that time. But now it's Rooney on the break for United. Ronaldo to his right. And here is Cristiano Ronaldo. Faced by Zogbia. Fortune. Now Keane with Paul Scholes. Newcastle have had time to regroup though. Gabriel Hetze, always keen to venture on down that left side. Away by O'Brien. Another FA Cup 2-goal return from Ruud van Nistelrooy. Really does relish this competition. And so does this man. Described somewhere this week his mood, Sir Alex Ferguson, is volcanic after the Norwich game and one or two other things off the field this week. Oh! What a great save that was. Van Nistelrooy so close then to a hat-trick. Very given. Managing to tip it over. Showing great agility here, but such quick thinking as well from Van Nistelrooy, who's got his confidence back in front of goal. That was just dipping in, you know. Saying about Sir Alex Ferguson, he's said this has been an interesting week. I'm not saying it mildly. Ronaldo. Mind you, my son went to meet Sir Alex for the first time a week or so back and described him as a pussycat. Couldn't have been nicer. Here's Ronaldo. Batting it out with Shearer. Such flamboyance. He is maturing, Ronaldo. And as he reminded us in that first few minutes, he can still dive on occasions. There's Robbie Williams at the back there. And Anton Deck as well. For you younger viewers who would recognise them. I upset them, I was calling them Dan and Tech by mistake. They were not amused. Anyway, here's Rooney. Bursting clear. Couldn't get away from Carr. Now it's Rooney. He's got Scholes. He was alongside him. It was broken up by Taylor. But the free kick's been given in a very precarious position too. Boomsong, who brought down Wayne Rooney. Quizzical look from young Rooney towards referee Mike Riley. He agreed. And here's a chance set for a fourth goal for Manchester United. Ronaldo and Hetze in the vicinity. Rooney's there too, and Scholes. Up comes Paul Scholes, beaten out. Shay Given did well then to get strong hands behind it. Really fired that in, Scholes. I think most people on the ground were expecting Ronaldo to take the kick, or Rooney, but it was Scholes who stepped up and really let fly. Straight at Shay Given, but he had to respond all the same. And he did so admirably to get it away. That was Ronaldo. Andy O'Brien with the header. Now Scholes. Oh, Shearer launched himself at him. It was a dangerous challenge then, surely, from Shearer. He might yet get punished for it, in terms of what United might conjure up from the free kick inside the last 20 minutes. It remains an absorbing FA Cup semi-final. Mainly one way in the first half. Renewed hope though for Newcastle, even though they'd gone 3 down. A strike from Amiobi brought them back into it a little. Rooney trying to finish them off. There are so much talent in this Manchester United team. They have been misfiring lately, but they have looked lethal throughout this game so far. That was Gary Neville. Now Fortune on a very skiddy surface, given all the rain we've had. Robert. Power been sent flying. Free kick to Newcastle. But leaving it for Taylor. Some right old scrap out there now in the pouring rain. One by Brown. Rooney lost his bearings for a moment against Carr. They've got to gamble now, Newcastle. And when they throw men forward, they might leave a gap or two for Manchester United to exploit. Meantime, it's Amiobi. No foul. Shake of the head from Mike Riley. Van Nistelrooy. As United come pouring forward again now with Ronaldo. And look at Gary Neville scampering forward here. And couldn't quite tee it up for Scholes or for Ronaldo or Van Nistelrooy, who are queuing up in the centre there. Zombia retaliating for Newcastle. And Shearer. And he scored in 2 previous FA Cup semi-finals. Here's Shearer again. Tim Howard right behind it. Newcastle fans on their feet here as it fell fairly invitingly for Shearer, but not that convincing really with the strike. Not given his outstanding record. His prowess from that kind of range. Just be that Ryan Giggs is going to come on. Ronaldo. Scholes. To Van Nistelrooy, and it's Neville again supporting down this right side. What a great ball that is. Ronaldo on the end of it. And he has spurned a fabulous opportunity. It was a terrific ball in then from Gary Neville. He must be thinking, I'm going to go myself soon. He's had 2 runs down that right side. He's never scored an FA Cup goal. Charles Zogbia. He's done well since coming on. Amiobi to Carr. And Fortune's header. Jean-Alain Bousson. It's not easy to break Manchester United down. And now they have more defending to do, Newcastle. Back comes Nicky Butt, giving his back players some protection there. But it's beginning to open up. Roy Keane. Combining with Fortune. Neville, Van Nistelrooy, Ronaldo! And it's 4-1. And surely now, Manchester United have booked their place in the final. The holders are on their way. Newcastle with players committed further forward. Left some spaces back there. No one marking Ronaldo. And it was a sweet finish from the Portuguese. Took it really well. And without question now, the semi-final is beyond Newcastle. They made a brave riposte in the second half. With a goal from Amiobi that gave them just a glimmer of hope. But now a fourth goal means it's out of their reach. This is fourth in the FA Cup this season to Ronaldo. And goal number 9 overall. No problem for Wayne Rooney, it would seem. But no problems for his team in terms of the scoreline. It's very impressive. They've had trouble scoring in recent games, but not in this one. And they're turning on the style. Rooney limping off. He'll take no further part in the game. And it will be Ryan Giggs on for the last, 13 minutes or so. Alan Smith will be thrust on as well, and maybe Darren Fletcher there. Off goes Ronaldo. He has certainly played his part. Rooney and Ronaldo going off. Giggs, Fletcher and Smith too, I think. Paul Scholes has given way. So it's all change for Manchester United, but no change at all in the balance of power. Robert. He's never quite got to grips with this semi-final, not in the way his manager would have hoped. It was the perfect chance really today for Robert to show what he can do out on the field. He's been talking a good game. His remarks off it, and when it's come to the crunch this afternoon, he's really not been up for it. Boom shot. Zogbier to his left. Here is Robert. Well, gesturing at his teammates, but it was such a poor pass. Ryan Giggs, the memories come flooding back of '99 and his wonder goal in the semi-final in the replay against Arsenal. Can that goal ever be forgotten? One of the greats, if not the greatest, in FA Cup history. As I was saying earlier, it's a major surprise that he's even featuring in this year's semi-final, having been out with a hamstring injury. He'd been ruled out a few days ago and then suddenly turned up for training. Stephen Carr. Shearer trying to get something out of it. But Manchester United holding him off in muscular fashion. O'Brien locked it back towards Shearer. Ryan Giggs. All the way past Nicky Butt. Yes, protect those hamstrings, it's not a bad idea. Well, he'll be a happy man after the difficult week that his team, his club have had on and off the field. Normal business has been resumed this afternoon though in Cardiff. Roy Keane, so impressive in midfield. Seems so unhurried by it all, but he's been controlling, dictating the flow, the tempo of the match. Here's Nzogbia. No real communication there with Shola Amiobi. Inside the last 10 minutes. Hense. They don't often lose domestic semi-finals, Manchester United. Chelsea, of course, managed to beat them in the semis of the League Cup at the start of the year. It was their first semi-final defeat in the English game for about 20 years, I think, since Alex Ferguson took over. Fletcher. Another who would seem to be out of the running in terms of figuring in the semi. He's only just come back from injury. Well, he certainly has some strength in depth in this Manchester United squad. Still without Louis Saha at the moment. He's on the sidelines, unfit. There's Carr's cross. And Alan Shearer just turned away that in frustration, in disappointment and in disgust, maybe. It's surely going to be their day, yet again, in the FA Cup. And it will be hard once more for Alan Shearer to take in. At least by staying on at least for another year, he's given himself another shot at winning a cup for Newcastle. Robert. Now Nicky Butt. This is Carr. Zogbia. Worth a try. And he'll learn from this experience. Some glum and forlorn faces now among the travelling faithful from Tyneside. Not too much dampens their morale. And they will keep on supporting their team. It's been a tough lesson against Manchester United. Back to form today. They're surely going to maintain Sir Alex Ferguson's unbeaten run in FA Cup semi-finals. And they're on the rampage again now with fortune. Smith have made a dart through the centre. This is Ryan Giggs. Chance for Fletcher. Not taken, Boom Song. And then a collision between Neville and Charlie Zogbia. And Fletcher might have made a name for himself there. Kluivert. It's easily repelled though. Ferdinand. To Ryan Giggs. Relishing playing there, of course, in Cardiff, in Wales. And will hope to be on parade for the final. Van Nistelrooy now. Unable to inflict some damage this time. I think Robbie Williams is a Port Vale supporter, if I remember correctly. Keane. Neville. To Fletcher. Well, they're coasting now. Only 5 minutes remaining. It wasn't until the end, really, that Arsenal sealed their victory against Blackburn here yesterday. But Manchester United have surely secured their passage rather sooner than that. Robin van Persie getting 2 very late goals for Arsenal. They were worthy winners. Blackburn were still in there with a chance until his late contribution. Robin Pires getting the first goal for Arsenal. And it promises to be some final, isn't it? Arsenal against Manchester United. They've got a few scores to settle between them. I think there's a great deal of love lost there. Shearer to Robert. Then Nicky Butt. Now Taylor. He's naturally right-footed, but having to play on the left with Babayaro not coming out for the second half. Boomsong. There's Robert. They could do some magic from him, but it's not forthcoming. Played out rather loosely though by Alan Smith. That's an offence by Hensei on Amiobi. They've had one or two tussles in this match. It's a yellow card for Hensei. Robert with the free kick. 3 minutes of the 90 to go. Chip Howard grasping, but Taylor not connecting. Got him round the back then, Taylor. But quite clearly it was behind the line before his header. Amiobi on Hensei, as their little argument continues. Hensei says, what about a yellow card for him? I hate it when players do that. Come on, Gabriel, the referee saw it. He can make his own mind up. Newcastle fans staying to the bitter end. And without doubt, it is a bitterly disappointing end to the season for them, in terms of having gone out of the UEFA Cup 3 days ago at the quarter-final stage, and now losers in the semi-finals they surely are going to be of the FA Cup. He knows his team are there. At the very least of Manchester United's ambitions for every season is one trophy. They've by no means collected that yet, not with Arsenal to come in the final here. Meantime, a rather dejected Alan Shearer, as his pleas for some assistance from the referee fall on deaf ears. Suarez, who would have come here with high expectations, but he knew it was going to be very, very difficult against the team he described as wounded animals, remember, after the Norwich game. There'll be 3 minutes of stoppage time. Robert. That was Kluivert. Gary Neville, though, was on his way back. And I'm sure while he's sitting there, Graham Souness, he'll be cursing in particular Lee Bowyer, maybe not so much Kieran Dyer, because he didn't blame him for that incident a couple of weeks back. But it's cost him the services of two key players. They might just have made a difference today. We shall never know. Taylor to Shola Amiobi. Offside against Carr. And we're now into time added on. No way they can save it now, Newcastle. They've given it their best shot, but it hasn't been enough. The clash between Van Nistelrooy and Boomsong. Well, the goals had dried up for Van Nistelrooy, but not today. 2 more to his tally. He still managed to score 14 in this injury-interrupted season. Keane. Oh, that was Carr with the tackle then. in behind Hensey. He's still saying, look, you booked me, what about one of them? I think they have singled him out for some harsh treatment. Well, he's a tough customer. He can take it. He can dish it out too. Here is Hensey. Fans singing now in happy mood despite the rain in Cardiff. Wasn't quite all over for Newcastle after the third goal, but certainly the fourth one sealed their fate. Cliver tangling with Brown, and it will be a free kick to Newcastle here later on. Only some 40 seconds or so to go. This is to be another consolation. Maybe Laurent Robert will have a strike. He's a fair way up. I thought better of it. Amiobi. Now Giggs. Here's O'Brien. And it will be an Arsenal-Manchester United FA Cup final in 2005. Sir Alex Ferguson's team have joined their great rivals for this year's showcase occasion by ending Newcastle hopes of a trophy for another season. A shattering end to such a miserable few days for the Geordies and their long-suffering fans. First defeat in the UEFA Cup quarter-final in Lisbon, and now beaten in the last four of the FA Cup. United on their way thanks to Van Nistelrooy's strike early on, and then just before half-time they got a second. Amiobi, at least with a reply for Newcastle, but then Ronaldo made sure that it will be United going on to the final on this same pitch on May the 21st. It all went horribly wrong for Newcastle, while for Manchester United it's yet another success at the semi-final stage. They have beaten Newcastle by 4 goals to 1.